Hey, good morning, John.
How you doing today?
Good. So for our next episode of Lean Pulse, you and I were setting up this morning, and there's a topic you really wanted to cover. Do you want to introduce what that is?
Yeah, really. And it's again, I've been posting a lot on LinkedIn, just walking through some things that are occurring in day-to-day life at the portfolio level. And boy, I get some interesting questions. But lately, there's been talk. So part of this discussion has been about the vision and where we're going, and we see this in the news, in business news all the time about where businesses are going. And yet, it seems like folks that are using SAFe don't always connect the business side and the safe side. So I wanted to do that. And that's it.
Okay. So tell me more. What do you mean by connecting the business side and the safe side? I know we get a lot of pushback. Scaled Agile is an IT framework. It's meant for the teams. All of those things that you and I have been trying to course correct for a long time.
Well, and really importantly, and this is a key thing. A business is in business to do what they're going to do. And it's different if you're a nonprofit versus a government or a business making money. But if you think about the most simple thing, we've got a business that's got a vision to do something new and unique. Typically, it's to increase shareholder wealth, stockholder wealth. And that's the business side of it. And oftentimes we're disconnected, but the portfolio level to me is meant to connect this. I'm just not sure everybody's opening up their eyes to part of this and how do we use this? And so right now we're looking at the SAFe big picture. It's the portfolio view. So if you look at it, in the upper right-hand corner, there's that click on the portfolio and you see that. But yesterday we were talking a little bit and we talked about this book. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. And I'm just showing you, for everybody knows, we don't get money off of Amazon. This is just Blue Ocean Strategy, easiest picture that I got.
Although
So,
that's where we get most of our books.
well, that and a couple other places. If you want that list, let us know.
Yeah.
By the way, Dwayne, what's the new contact email?
Connect at leaningagile.com.
Connect at leaningagile.com. So anybody who wants to connect with us, drop us a note. So this Blue Ocean Strategy thing is about where a company's going. And gosh, this was written, I have to admit, I think it was 2005 or so. And I'm actually looking, 2005. Funny enough, it's again, Harvard Business School folks. A lot of books come from them, Cotter and everything else. So here's this thing called Blue Ocean Strategy. And then the question becomes well, so why am I bringing this up? And so now I'm going to go back to the big picture, but I'm actually going to jump into the article that's called Strategic Themes. And so really what happens is, you've got the business and it wants to go in this direction. And so that's this strategic theme. It's a strategic initiative. What direction are we going? And this is a connect to this Blue Ocean Strategy book. But I want to dive in here just for a second, a couple other pictures kind of to set the stage. So you'll notice at the business level, the enterprise, the business, the firm, making money, going in a direction, increase their business. Look at that, the very top of the list. It's where's the portfolio going? So that portfolio is supporting the business, and that portfolio vision needs to be connected to the business. And when we talk about vision, that's the new stuff coming at us. Where are we headed? And by the way, we're not going to get into this, but now we could also have a discussion on OKRs here, but we're not going to go that direction yet.
John, if I may, one of the things I've seen in my coaching experience is strategic themes and vision are two of the most misunderstood terms. Everyone thinks they understand it, but when it comes down to it, they really struggle, especially with vision. I have seen too many companies that their vision statement is, let's be honest, it's weak, it's ambiguous. It does not involve the elephant and the rider, if you will. But I just wanted to insert that's one of the things that people really struggle with is, well, we have a vision statement. You've got a poster on a wall. It's not a real vision direction statement.
Yeah, and that's really what this discussion is about. And that Blue Ocean Strategy, again, we'll pull that in a second. So that portfolio vision, so this is figure 6, and it's in the portfolio vision document. And here's something really, really important. Again, just like you just said, Dwayne, I think a lot of folks miss this connection because we don't get the chance to talk to folks about this a whole lot unless we're with those portfolio level folks, which are members of the SLT, sometimes the LT, but usually an SLT or the SLT's direct reports. We're talking that level of management in a company. So now look at how this starts out. We've got current state. This is a portfolio canvas. And by the way, I've seen these canvases popping up all over the place, not just in safe use, but in all sorts of use in today's world. They're called a little bit different. I've seen it called strategic canvas. I've seen it called business canvas. So these canvases, they're used all over the place. So then you got the three in the middle, that divergent thinking. It says, where could we go in the future? What are our options? And then on the right side, that future state, that's the vision. What is our future state? Where are we going? And that future state says, in order to get there, we're going to create some epics to move us in that direction.
And this has always been one of my favorite diagrams in
Oh,
the
I love
framework
this.
because, well, we used to do it and we called it scenario-based planning. And some people would look at it as an exercise in futility because they're used to the point-based approach. Find a direction, plan detailed for that. Well, what if you have to pivot? Oh, we have to come back together. What if you instead stop, take a few minutes? This is really the podcast we did the other day about slowing down to speeding up. Pause, look at what your options are, do some high level planning. And what this is saying is project out as if that's the new portfolio state, as if you have already arrived. What would that look like? What do your revenue streams look like? Your customer base, things like that, customer loyalty, your opportunities. And people miss the power of that, of just being able to sit back and look at it, because not only can you create a better future direction, when those pivot opportunities come, they're already informed. You already know or have a lot of information about which pivot to make.
And getting into the pivots. And again, there's what, 6 or 8 pivots that we typically talk about. The zoom in, zoom out. Again, coming back to this level. Here's really important. And Dwayne, you said this. These discussions are going on in companies, but I'm not sure they're connected through the portfolio thought, the portfolio people, the portfolio group at the right level, and into folks that are grabbing epics, tearing them apart in features and stories and delivering them. But how do we get there? So if we have these epics, so now really important, and this is figure 6, that's funny, it's figure 6 again, from the Epic article, and this is the lean startup cycle. And you just said about this, that pivot, you use that word pivot, and really important is for a new Epic that's looking for that future, we're going to do an MVP. And what's a minimum viable product? It's a learning thing. It's one or more MMFs, those minimal marketable feature things, to say, if we go this direction, do we think we're going to get something out of it? And that's another part that people oftentimes leave on the wayside, is they're not using MVPs decently. They're using them, but maybe not decently. And so saying, did we get what we wanted out of this? And are we going in the right direction? And
Well,
then
and that,
cycling through.
sorry, that brings up another thought, and a future podcast session we want to do is one of the terms you and I have talked about, MLIs, minimum learning increments, because both of us have a little bit of disdain towards that MVP concept. And really, what the lean startup cycle is talking about, it's not necessarily about making a minimum viable product, something you actually are making money from and so forth. Instead, it's about as quickly as possible truncating unsuccessful paths, confirming the right path before you really go full tilt down it. And that's what MLIs do, those minimum learning increments, that yes, we're building something. You can't learn by just discussing, by just planning, strategizing. You have to actually build something, but you build just enough to learn. That's the outcome. You build enough to learn, not necessarily to sell.
Well, and the point you just brought up, and it's so easy to do a deep dive. There's a couple more pictures I want to throw out at everybody, but something to keep in mind is when an Epic owner is driving the conversation on epics, there's a conversation to be had there with the product managers and architects and business owners saying, hey, we're going to do this MVP thing. We're going to learn from it. But let's say it pans out. If it does pan out, what would be the group of minimal marketable features? And by the way, I'm really using MMFs here. And a feature in safe really is meant to be an MMF. It's not supposed to be everything in the kitchen sink. It's
Yeah.
always designed to be, what's the MMF? So now you get this idea of, well, what would we actually release to our customers? And there's got to be a discussion. So where does that discussion come from? Well, lo and behold, and this one is figure 1 in the Epic Owner article. Look, the Epic Owner needs to drive those good conversations with the right folks, the business owners, product managers, architects, and other folks to say, here's where this thing is going and what we should have in it. And so this is outward looking. By the way, you'd have sales and marketing in here because there would be that connection for continuous exploration. And again, a different topic would be the fuzzy front end stuff that, written about on LinkedIn, and we've got something on our list to talk about the fuzzy front end in the future sometime. But we've got to have that Epic Owner in there drive, giving the right folks in the room to collaborate to figure out what is the Epic, what's the MVP. If the MVP pays off, what's going to be that group of features that will probably be released first. And so there's that conversation, which, by the way, that lean business case, you could actually document it in there. And then we get to the point where you've got the product manager and the association there with the collaboration there. Now, here's this weird thing for a company that's
Before
just
you go
doing
on, can
essential.
going back to the Epic Owner, sorry to interrupt. The Epic Owner, I think a lot of people miss the concept of the Epic Owner. This person's brings passion, experience, knowledge, input, feedback, validation. They're not necessarily stating, here's what we need to build. In fact, they shouldn't be. What they're saying is, this is a really important problem or opportunity for our customer, for our enterprise. Here's why I'm so passionate about it, and it shows, it's evidenced in their vision around it. Again, the elephant and the rider, engaging both sides of it. But when you say steer, this isn't command and control. This is, they're driving it through passion, engagement, energy, positive about this is a really valuable opportunity. But one thing they're always keeping in mind, they're not the only Epic Owner, and there are other opportunities. So they're always keeping that open eye to what other opportunities are out there, even though they're very passionate about this one they're trying to advance.
Boy, and we could another deep dive.
Yeah, we could go. I just wanted to
Passionately get with
highlight that,
stakeholders.
but
So think about that. We've got to do a stakeholder analysis in here. And a lot of folks that I talk with, that I work with, I remember standing at a whiteboard with some folks. They were in towns, and even though this was during COVID, they're a hardware type company. They build real stuff. So we were in person. We were in person through that whole time. I remember standing at a whiteboard with product manager, business owner, and a couple of architects, and we were talking about a stakeholder analysis. And it was just a whiteboarding thing. We put up all their names and say, so who are the key ones who have the highest equity in this and desire and stuff. And we did that in less than 50 minutes. But that's what this is talking about. The Epic Owner has to get with them.
yeah, get involved.
But that is a kind of a weird thing, because if you think about this, and in SAFe, we're always saying we're going to start, our goal is to get an art going good with Essential Safe. And so sometimes the product manager thinks it's only the product manager's job to look outward. But let's be honest. In any organization that's doing Essential Safe and is trying to get better, there's still those folks in an organization, even if we haven't yet focused on improving the portfolio, even if we haven't started helping the portfolio get better, there are folks in the organization that are looking outward, that are doing the marketing, that are doing the sales stuff, and they're the focus groups and everything else, and they're bringing that data in. And the product manager needs to be talking with them.
Yeah.
And where are they talking to them? And I'm going to bring this up, continuous exploration. So here, even if you're just doing Essential Safe, product manager and architect are collaborating with those folks. That product manager and architect have to look outwards and do that, even if you don't have Epic Owners yet. So if you're listening to everybody, even if you're doing Essential Safe, there are people in your organization that are doing this stuff. They might just not be doing it in a lean fashion yet. So they're still in their functional areas. They're not looking at flow. And as a product manager doing Essential Safe, you have to get with them, product manager and architect, get with them together. You're a pair. You're always doing pair work, bringing those features in, that collaboration, research, and synthesis. And now we've got this way to get this idea in any world all the way to the point where we've got product managers and architects refining features in order to put them in front of the art to grab and figure out if this is a problem to solve. So now we've got this connection, and now we can actually start talking the ideas from Blue Ocean Strategy. So that was my start off. And Dwayne, thanks for letting me share some screens just to
Yeah.
get it started. But then let's start talking about just strategy and vision and where we're going anyway.
Yeah, and my apologies for jumping in. Some of those topics, I could see the passion in you. I have the same passion. And the reason we're so passionate about it is we have seen company after company make egregious mistakes, not through lack of trying, not through lack of intelligence. They just don't have the strategy and the vision in place. And unfortunately, they think they do. And that's where the difference comes in is when we start to talk about lean portfolio management. Lean portfolio management, we talk about this all the time. Every company has a portfolio management approach. Whether they recognize it or not, whether it's documented or not, they have a way of managing their portfolio. Our Lean and Agile partnership has a way of managing its portfolio. Very lightweight, high level, but there is a way to do it. What's missing is companies taking a deep dive look at that process. It's very similar to the conversation we had again the other day on slowing down to speeding up, is stepping back from the process in flight to learn how to make it better. And far too often, it's the tyranny of the urgent. We're so busy focused on running the process that we don't pause to see how to improve it. When it comes to lean portfolio, there's so many opportunities to improve, to get better vision, better insight, better reactions, responses to market opportunities.
And what you just said, I was started thinking about the guardrails, and I didn't even bring up the guardrails article. So if in the guardrails article, we're talking about one of the ideas, one of the guardrails is about horizons
Yeah.
and how much capacity an organization should probably allocate towards working on epics for these different horizons. And if you read a bunch of work, and by the way, I do, you can find out that Google uses about 70% in Horizon 1 stuff, 20% in Horizon 2, and 10% in Horizon 3. But now think about how this connects. And this is really where it connects with this idea of the Blue Ocean strategy. And in Blue Ocean strategy, there's Blue Ocean and Red Ocean. And Red Ocean truly is, that's our current marketplace. And the pie is limited. We know who our competitors are. There's an existing demand for that market.
It's
We're
relatively
trying
stable.
relatively, not
We know
perfectly.
what we deliver. We know who we're marketing to. Now, the market might be changing quite rapidly within it, but we're fairly clear on the outcomes we're looking for, the revenue we're expecting, the direction we're heading in Horizon 1.
And unfortunately, that leads to those weird conversations people have about cutting costs and dropping their price and laying off people and all these other weird conversations. Right, wrong, or different. By the way, for everybody, if you read Lean Thinking by Womack and Jones, one of the key things that they make a point of in there is one of the biggest things for a manager in a company that's going lean is what to do with freed up capacity
Yeah.
as the organization starts to reduce delays and impediments, because a company that really does lean is going to end up with excess capacity, and where are you going to use it? By the way, haven't ever met a company that doesn't have more stuff to do for the same amount of money.
Yeah, let me pull on that thread for a minute because that's something that really stood out to me in lean thinking. And I've seen over the years, I've seen clients look at this. And unfortunately, and just a reminder for our audience, when we're talking about lean, we're not talking about what I call stopwatch lean. Looking over the shoulder with the timer, the Tayloristic kind of approach, and the total goal there is to eliminate headcount. That's not what we're talking about. True lean thinking is about improving the process to free up capacity because then that freed up capacity is used to find other improvements and make things even better. But to your point, I have yet to see a company that says, oh, we just have too many people. There's not enough to do. That's not the case. There's always way more opportunities out there than we can take advantage of. The reason we don't take advantage of them is budget constraints, capacity constraints.
Yep.
If you pause, step back, free up some of that capacity today, The ROI on that initial investment is huge. And lean thinking and Reinertsen and many others have documented the incredible gains you can achieve, exponential gains by just briefly pausing to improve the system, gain some capacity back, use that to find more improvement opportunities. And it's a snowball effect. It's
Well, not only improvement,
self-perpetuating
but business opportunities in general.
opportunities. Exactly.
Yep.
And they become one and the same. Business opportunities and improving how we deliver them, they become inseparable. That's a lean organization, is you can't separate the two.
And that's how we get into blue ocean. And by the way, for everybody listening, the blue ocean strategy, I highly recommend the book, by the way. It's Kim and Mo Byrne, I think is the right way to pronounce Renee's name. So anyway, blue ocean strategy. This is new. This is the new marketplace. This is where you're the firstest there with the mostest. In other words, there aren't other competitors. You're in that space, and it's new. It's new demand and new customers. And you are changing the conversation to say, well, we have to sell something for less, to say, we have this new thing. So now you've got true innovation and true differentiation. And now you get to start creating that value, which again, people talk about innovation, and we get into this innovation in the small a lot, but blue ocean strategy really opens it up to innovation in the big. And we're seeing it today with AI. People are trying to figure out how to exploit AI to open up markets. And that's just one of many that we see in today's world. Another one, by the way, if you look at Ford, if you go back to this Q3 and Q4 of 2020, that's when they made this huge shift into the EV market, and Ford decided to commit $10 billion to new battery plants in Tennessee and Kentucky, $10 billion that they shifted. So that's budgeting in action. And they took current money, shifted it to different capacity in order to build out their EV capabilities. In order to have that money available, they actually did some action in the background. They stopped making some sedans. They stopped making things like the Taurus and other cars, and some of the Lincolns and Mercuries went away. But so it's not new money. It's current money that they shifted the focus. And this is all discussions at the portfolio level. And I don't think from a business perspective, people tie this together with what we're doing with Scaled Agile.
So you mentioned Ford. I just read an article this morning that was very timely. They are shifting one of their Canadian EV plants over to building F-150s, ICE vehicles, shifting away from EV. Now, not to get into the political spectrum of ICE versus EV, global warming and all of those things, but the bottom line is Ford made a huge mistake. That's the reality. And they made a huge mistake because they were succumbing to the wrong pressures and not stepping back and looking at the system to say, is the market ready for it? Is it the right pace, the right strategy, the right approach? The vision should increment, augment. It's not very common that you take a vision and completely shift it over here. It's we're moving this forward incrementally. Instead, Ford said, take this, jump it over here, and let's build our whole strategy around it. And it turned out to be a huge mistake. Toyota, on the other hand, said, hold on, wait a minute. We don't believe the market is ready for full on all EV vehicles, maybe in the future, but not right now. And so they said, we're going to stick with hybrid vehicles and improve those to still get to the same outcomes, reduce emissions, things like that, increase maintainability, all of those opportunities. The companies that dove really deep into this technology so quickly, they're all suffering right now. And you brought up AI. That's the same approach, the same problem is people are looking at AI as this saving grace, as this new nirvana, it's going to solve all of our business problems. No. You and I have coined this term all the time. We call it algorithmic intelligence, not artificial intelligence. It's so dependent on the quality of the data, the quality of the algorithms that are being built. There are just too many factors to put all your chips in one basket. Instead, building this strategy and this vision and using that lean startup cycle you talked about, having that approach where we are learning and the feedback loops. It's one thing I don't know if you called out when you had those images up there, is the key feedback loops. This is not a trickle down, bubble down, flow down approach. This is a two-way communication channel, up and down. And I even hesitate to use the term up and down. It's continuous flow of information back and forth between it's systems thinking using the feedback loops.
And I didn't use the word feedback loops, but that's why I wanted to show that collaboration, the epic owner driven collaboration, the product manager driven collaboration. And if those collaborations aren't going, and Dwayne, both of us have worked with organizations that the product manager is trying to do 3 other jobs or 4 other jobs, and they don't have time to really do the collaboration, and something's got to give. And so now that goes, or they have epic owners that the epic owner's job is to write epics and throw them over the fence.
Yeah, and that's exactly not the approach we want. So, John, I wanted to wrap this conversation up because we could go on for hours about this
So
topic.
as we go down, one quick comment, because you brought up Ford and Toyota again.
Mm-hmm.
Two very different approaches. And Ford, if you look up the numbers, they lost 5 billion in 2023.
Yeah.
They made 72,608, according to the news, 72,608 EVs. That's a loss of about $68,000 per EV that they sold.
Yeah.
That's a straight loss. So that's really important. And that's worthy of thinking about, is so ignoring sunk cost comes into play. And then you've got Toyota, who you mentioned their approach. And something I have to mention on this. So there was a discussion on LinkedIn, and somebody referenced Mr. Toyota. And by the way, Toyota spelled with a D.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody made a comment to the author of this LinkedIn thread. Can't you even spell their name right? And they didn't even know that it was Toyota. It just made me laugh. But Toyota has taken a very different approach. It's, let's figure this out. And they really do a set-based design approach. What are the options? And the last responsible moment isn't here yet. They still have their options open.
Yes.
So now we're talking set-based design, which really comes from this discussion on last responsible moment. Really is when you lose a possibility of an option. And that's part of the lean thing. So with that, future topics, Dwayne, go ahead, close this out.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John. Again, I imagine people that have been watching our podcast sessions can recognize the passion behind it. And that's one of the things I wanted to wrap up with. You started off talking about, especially in the private sector, business's purpose is to achieve to generate shareholder wealth. And I want to, and I know I'm paraphrasing, but I want to be cautious about that. Real business, successful business is about improving outcomes for people in different configuration needs, whatever it might be. The revenue comes. And we've seen that over the years where companies will start to be successful. They start to focus solely on shareholder profits. And what happens? The company goes down because they lost sight of their purpose. Their purpose isn't to make money. They will absolutely make money, and is a determining factor. Are they doing well? If you're not making money, you're missing the market somewhere. You're not delivering the right things. But making that focus on solving customer problems, improving customer outcomes, that's what businesses should be focused on. And strategic themes, the vision isn't about dollars, although it can include revenue numbers and things like that. It's about how do we become more important? How do we become more relevant to solving our customers' problems? So
Thank
with
you.
that,
Blue Ocean
thank,
strategy, way to get there.
absolutely. All right. Thanks, John. Great session. We'll see you on the next one.
See you, everybody.